we have people do all kinds of crazy things to get customers taken care of. And I know a lady was in the checkout line at Walmart and her debit card wouldn't work one day, and a lady that runs our debit card department got the cash out of her account for her with the customer's permission, of course, and drove that to Walmart and delivered it to the customer. I mean, we just do whatever it takes to get the customer taken care of, and I think that's unique in today's banking environment.
It was sudden.
Call this meeting to order, and we'll turn it over to the city manager to move briskly through the agenda so we can move on to other things.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll jump right into that. We'll come back. We've got some representatives here from downtown Amarillo. We'll give you guys a quick update, answer any questions you may have, some of their efforts and activities that are ongoing. So we'll come right back and pick that up. Item number 1, approval of the minutes from last week's meeting.
Look fine. Anybody?
Michelle, you and Stephen want to pull it up?
Sure is.
Item number 2, this is your first and final, or first and only, reading of an ordinance authorizing the issuance of the water system and sewer system revenue bond. We discussed this last week. We awarded an engineering contract, slightly over $1.4 million. This $1.3 million is what's being offered to you by the Texas Water Development Board to help support that project. And I'm going to steal a little bit of Stephen's thunder if they'll allow me to. This issuance is at less than 0.4% of 1%.
That's unbelievable.
Are they going to pay us?
So when we get that whopping 0.5% interest, we're actually better than cash in this case.
Wow, that's
so,
just incredible.
With that, y'all know Stephen, or Stephen Adams, financial advisor in specialized public finance. And he'll walk us through this.
Well, thank you for this presentation on page 1. And of course, the 0.359%. One interesting thing, they set this rate 1 week ago today, and it is actually, it would be about 0.559 today. The rates have gone up pretty significantly in the last week on municipal bonds and other rates. So that was good timing. These are 1.31 million waterworks and sewer system revenue bonds, and so the pledge would be the water and sewer revenues. Bond proceeds will be used on page 2, fund planning and design of water projects. By participating in the planning and design funding, the city could qualify for subsidized rates on the construction portion of a project in the future. And I know Floyd's been working closely with the Water Development Board, and if that moves about, we could be coming back, I think, next May or so with the production portion, construction portion of a project.
Steve, let me interrupt you. Pardon me. The changes that are being made with the Texas Water Development Board, I know that that's more or less in administration, but do you anticipate it causing any problems or a shift or a sea change in the way they do business? Or just don't know? Too early.
Well, I think, my read of that is, first of all, I think they'll probably be easier to work with. They can be kind of hard for some of the particularly smaller, our clients to work with. And these programs like this are federal programs, and so they've got to comply with so many federal rules that I don't see that programs like this are really going to change much. So I don't think really the way they rank them and the requirements are going to change on these federal programs.
With funds, what about?
That's state money, and I did not keep up to see if that even got funded in the legislature.
It did, as did the reorganization, taking it from a board to a commission.
Right.
But these programs are very mechanical and have been in place for quite a while. WIF is likely to where you'll see the greatest changes, and possibly just the overall structure of how the board delivers its services. We won't know. The commissioners at Marcus, they've not been selected or appointed. You're going from what in effect is a governor's appointed volunteer body of board members to a 3-member permanent standing commission. That's the exact same model that's in play today. It's Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. Those are their electeds.
Now, the $3 billion the legislature approved for water planning, will that go to this new water company or no?
Yes.
It would flow.
Yes, and what they actually programmed, and I'm not sure, but what it didn't end up closer to the 2 mark.
Yeah.
It was up and down several times. How they'll use that on programs, they still have to write the rules to do that. I think the earliest, at least discussions, if not intent, were that it would provide seed funding for WIF so that the state wasn't borrowing their part of that interest rate buy down that you saw on the WIF projects.
It just concerns me.
Well, I think what you're probably going to see with that is a lot more emphasis on developing large new water projects.
Can you say I-35 and 100 miles to each side?
Pretty much, yeah. Moving water from East Texas to West Texas is really what it's probably going to be. But at any rate, moving forward on page 2, we expect to close this on or about July 10th. And you still have your AAA by Standard & Poor's on the water and sewer system and AA1 by Moody's. So the water and sewer system is still rated higher than the federal government by Standard & Poor's. The debt service and interest rate is only 10 years on these PAD loans. Of course, very low interest rate you see on page 3. And it's our recommendation that the city awards the $1.31 million water and sewer revenue bonds. New Series 2015 for the Texas Water Development Board. And I think we may be coming back next in July or so with for the wastewater side, smaller than even this, but again, to get the city in line for the subsidized funding on the construction pieces.
The real benefits when we go after the construction money, and this does put you up the list to get that construction.
By participating in this.
Exactly. And y'all well aware of the benefit all of our ratepayers received when we got subsidized interest rates on the Potter County well fields, either internal or inside the distribution system projects, but it's just important.
Okay. Steve, thank you.
Good job. Thank you.
You'll be able to do that audit and audit not bring us these rates. That's right. We have high expectations for the rates.
Anything south, though, anything south of 0.5.
All right. Yeah.
Well, don't say that because next month you've got some that may not be south of the 25.
I think he was issuing an instruction.
Yeah. See, you do your magic.
Yeah, I'll talk to the new and recreated water development.
And I don't think they can do that until September 1.
No, that's when it is.
Yeah, so it's,
I'm not sure, has the governor actually inked that bill? I know it went to his desk. Can you sign that? I was kind of.
it waits too much longer to go into effect with that signature.
That's right. But it's on his desk.
Very unusual. Item number 3, ordinance 7409, second and final on the annexation. Fourth or fifth time we looked at it, again, that little strip closing out over there, City View. Kelly, wherever you went, changes, I really got to quit moving.
No changes, everything's fine.
It does it when he ducks down where I can't see him.
Sorry to hit a moving target.
I apparently go. You notice he's hiding behind the attorney though. You know what that means? Item number 4, resolution. This is our annual Edward Bernie Memorial Justice Assistance Grant. We commonly call it the JAG grant. This is the one you're happy to remember that we split with Potter County. The amount awarded has gone down. We're at $101,000 this year. City of Amarillo's half will go towards continuing equipping our officers with the electronic ticket writers.
Well, since we're the same as Potter County, did we just get it all according to the paper? City,
Yeah, the
county,
city,
same thing.
Same thing, I love it.
Yeah.
I thought that meant I could trade our insurance name and claim for theirs. You're going to have to add a V
One and the
to
same.
get
It made me
that.
read the whole article, because I kept thinking, where does city come in this?
You don't take responsibility for headlines.
He just wrote the article.
The article
Never
was
mentioned the
factually
city in
correct.
the article.
Headlines. You don't even get to see the headlines, I guess.
The next day, same time you do.
Do you look at it like this?
Frequently. And then you take all the grief, right? It's not gonna,
As shown here.
it's not gonna change.
Here with that, let's move to item number 5. Okay. Resolution calling a public hearing. So we're setting date for this structure. And the write-up states that your date would be the 9th of July, 2013, 3 o'clock for 2 properties, 823 and 825 North Van Buren. We were able, as we had been asked a week or so ago, to go ahead and get a photograph in here.
Yes.
So if you have any questions on that, there is a photograph there, and you're welcome to go take a look.
Tim, I think that's yours. So. Yeah, that's yours.
Yes.
Again, we're not taking the action today, we're setting
Oh,
the
we're
date
just setting it.
at
Okay.
which we will
Okay.
consider the action.
Okay.
You'll get more pictures when we get closer.
Okay.
You know, those look like twins. Are they right next to each other?
Yes, sir. Adjacent lots.
Yeah, okay.
Looks like.
Consent agenda. Consent item A, purchase of a flatbed truck and forklift combination. This is to move the dumpsters around. Purchased off of iBoard, it is less than budgeted, and it's replacing 2000 model truck, so that's a 14-year model's old. I think we've gotten our use out of it. I think there is a photograph of the unit in there as well.
I think there should just not be a dollar sign on that 35,000 GVW.
I would agree with that.
Oh.
In fact, if they'd sell us that truck for 35,000,
It'd be a good
I'd
deal.
be pretty pleased, yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, 35,000 for a
Pretty
vehicle.
vehicle.
See, I told you guys about these.
I know they do.
I approved it, I should have got it. Item B, purchase of computer hardware, 70 desktops, 20 laptops, and some back office hardware for our email systems. Mr. Brown's here if we have any good hard questions we can ask him.
You keep computers 6 or 7 years.
Right there.
A long time.
We also pass them around. My new computer is somebody else's used computer.
You knew that? No.
Because they left the CD in it in the last project they were doing. I have a modified basement now. This Tim has a heart attack back there. Item number C, purchase of the property at 404 South Grant. Pass around a photograph. It's outlined in black. Give that to Ford. Over to Kevin. The small warehouse that's between 2 pieces of city-owned property that are all used in the Civic Center.
Nice price. Nice price.
It's good. It's a very, very good price. Not the first time the city's been interested in that property, but I think we've struck a very good and fair deal to acquire that. We actually already have in hands, I believe, the title opinion, the survey, and the tax certificates. So pending your consideration and approval, we'll be able to close that very quickly. The funding source, of course, would be from the Civic Center Improvement Fund, another name for a reserve fund. And just as a reminder, all dollars in that fund are hotel occupancy tax dollars. There are no general fund tax dollars, sales tax dollars, etc. This goes to support both current and future use at the Civic Center and with a dedicated funding source to do so.
Great. And we own the parking lot just north.
And we own the warehouse just south, and the parking lot to the west.
The only thing we don't know is those 2 little buildings just south of it. Oh, that one, yes,
That's the one.
that's right.
The one little red dot in
That's what they
the
do. The
southwest corner, snap
kids
back.
snack.
But we own the other one to the north, or to the definitely south.
Yes.
I guess that's, okay.
So we've got a little over 3
Yeah, it
quarters.
looks like a warehouse.
We'll be able to move into that, this 404 warehouse pretty quickly. The seller has done a little bit of work to the roof. We're gonna do just a little bit more, and then we'll be able to use it very quickly. Questions on the agenda? Any part there? Okay, hearing none. Next item for your work session, again, is the downtown Amarillo update. We have Chairman John Lutz, Principal Director Melissa Davis. And Alan, I apologize, that's right. Alvin Sanchez, who is our new summer intern.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm
Welcome.
Thank you. I'll try to make this quick. I'm in the water meter. Go ahead.
We appreciate the opportunity to come before you and discuss some of the improvements and developments downtown that we're doing. We obviously all have a lot of eyes on the hotel, ballpark, and parking garage project that we see is working diligently on. But we've got a lot of other things that DAI has been working on behalf of the city, and we wanted to come and share those with you today. We sincerely appreciate the opportunity to work on behalf of the city and appreciate the support that you guys give us as well as city staff. So that all.
What you have in front of you is a summary of the major strategic action plan goals. Downtown Amarillo was formed to implement that plan. And so we've started about quarterly taking a look at that, seeing where we are on those goals. This is a 10-year plan, and we are 5 years into that plan. So soon we'll need to update it. Yay! And so just that's for your reference, for you to take a look at and kind of see where we are. But I wanted to highlight some of the things we're currently working on, other than, of course, the hotel ballpark project. Focusing on residential, of course, residential was something that was a big focus in the strategic plan, and something we need to really try and get downtown, particularly market rate units. And one of the projects that we're working on is Clemens Village. The property owner purchased all of these buildings on 10th Street between Van Buren and Jackson. And these are historic buildings. He's actually a local dentist. And he's from here, but he lived in Houston for a long time, had a practice, and saw what Wallace Magellan had been doing there. And he ultimately moved back here and decided to do the downtown project. So we've been working with him for the past year. This is going to be 11 market rate units with possibly retail, and it says 11 plus because we're also looking at the possibility of residential on the ground level, some loft units. But it would be flexible. It could be residential, could be retail. So Chuck Lynch is working on this. I think this is going to be a great project. We have been working with him especially on historic tax credits. We submitted an application to the Texas Historic Commission, and he received an approval on those tax credits for 2 of the 3 buildings. That would be this building and this building. And then we're now working on this little gas station building. It looks like he's going to need to tear out the surround. This was a canopy that you actually drove through in a small car, apparently. And so that surround's going to come off, which was in the original plan already, so that the 20% tax credits can be applied to the project, which is significant.
What's a surround?
That is basically the canopy. If you can see the brick right here, that was original, and then it was enclosed.
Okay.
So that's what I said, a small car used to be able to drive through there, but a lot of our cars wouldn't fit through there today. There's actually some, were some current, condos in there, little sort of makeshift condos. It's in rough shape, but it's structurally sound. Asbestos has been removed in the building. One of the units is burnt out, and so but there's some really great features in it, like the ceiling. There was a drop ceiling that was put in below this, and the original tin ceiling is all still there. So, right down the street, a block to the east, the 10th Avenue Lofts, and this is the Maze Group that's doing this project, 6 market rate units. We'll be working with both of those projects on also implementing the streetscape, the trees, the lighting, new sidewalks, retail on the ground level. This is next to Young Sushi, and they own all of those buildings. The building that they're going to be redoing, as well as the Young Sushi and the building their offices in. So, looking at rounding the corner on that streetscape and really making a big improvement on a major intersection there. And Victory duplexes are, this was actually a few months old, but I think probably complete on this street, and really a huge improvement. This is at, let me see, Van Buren and 3rd. Huge improvement for this neighborhood. Vineyard Manor, as you know, is open, 11 affordable housing units, retail at the ground level, so more residential units for downtown. And I got these out of order. I actually had some interior pictures I thought I'd show you if you didn't have a chance to go to the grand opening. But I'm sorry, these kind of got out of order. This is actually an interior picture of the Amarillo building, and this is not something you necessarily see from the outside, but they estimate somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 on the interior renovation of that building, and it really looks fantastic, and bringing it back to more of what it used to be. And they really have cared for this building, and as a result, have 6 new tenants in the last year in the building. Toot and Totem under construction, in fact, supposed to open on Thursday, I think. And then Herring Bank coming for some time now. They're doing the old, as I understand it, the old funeral home building, everybody calls it, and are restoring that building, doing a bank drive-through in the rear. So this is actually across the street from the Liberty Theater and behind the Gloria Center. So here's a view of that from Pierce Street. It's Pierce and Ford. It's really just a neat old building, and it's been vacant for I don't know how many years, certainly since I've been here. This part in the rear will be torn down to make room for the drive-through in the rear. And the streetscape will go all the way around that half block. There's the picture that's out of order of the Amarillo building. So this is, I apologize. These are interior pictures of the Vineyard Manor, and they did historic tax credits as well to help make this project work. And so some of those features, like the original floor and the original mailboxes, were retained. So I don't know if you've had a chance to go through that, but certainly a big improvement. And a lot of those are real efficiency units, like this is the living room and the bedroom. But some neat features, like I said, that were retained. Like
Who is that precious child that saw by that bed?
Oh, that would be mine.
That's Karma.
She was very intrigued by this bed that was in the
Murphy
closet.
bed?
She's like, how does this work? She wanted to get on it.
You put it on it?
These are the original floor plans back when people were willing to live in 500 square feet. And largely those have been retained as efficiency apartments. Market rate units typically, certainly in Amarillo, are going to be larger than that. A courtyard, which is looks a lot better. This is in the back. Another thing we're really kind of starting to look at, and we looked at this 4 years ago when we applied for some textile step funds, and that was the redesign of Folk Street. And we're just kind of beginning to refocus on that and what can be done to make this a really great street. When you think of downtowns, no matter where you go, downtowns that are vibrant and active, people are focusing on them. They have a great main street. Whatever that, ours is Folk Street, but it needs to be that great street. So, across the country, it's Minneapolis, it's the Denver 16th Street Mall, and I'm not even suggesting some go as far as closing the street to vehicular traffic, like in Minneapolis or Denver, or this is Fort Worth, and it's it's not closed to vehicular traffic, but it's still that great street. So what can we do to create that on Polk Street? And, you know, we have this middle lane that mainly, as far as I can tell, is used for beer trucks. And,
Police
you know,
cars at 2 in the morning.
Police cars at 2 in the morning, yes. It doesn't get a lot of turn lane use, and so the question is, you know, what do we want the street to be, and how can we maximize that right of way in terms of allowing restaurants to spill out onto the street, which they really, sidewalk actually, which they really can't do right now, because there just isn't enough sidewalk width. So kind of beginning to focus on that again. Still working on Liberty Theater, 4 years now, it's still standing. Working very hard on the roof. Lavin is working with us, as is Western Builders, and replacing the roof, which is now kind of not good, caved in. So it's structurally still sound, but the roof is caving in. So we are still working on this and kind of looking back at what we originally looked at as the possibilities for that block. This was 4 years ago that we presented to y'all the idea of, you know, a possible park side there. You know, of course, the city owns the whole block, and you know, making this a really great place with an arts kind of use. And I think we have two real possibilities at the table that we've been working with over the past few months in terms of a user. One of them has been in Amarillo for a long time, a well-respected entity that we're working with that I think may really work out. And I just wanted to show you this. I just came from Chicago and was kind of thinking about the fees that we put in our parks. And this was a grown-up one. And, you know, it made me think of the splash pads, which, you know, I take Carmen to in the summertime and she loves it. But I don't want to get in it because it's spraying water everywhere. But this one was kind of interesting. This is in Millennium Park, and it's like a splash pad for adults. But there's kids in it too, of course. And there's like an inch of water. And I took it behind this wall so you see the water splashing. But there's no water splashing in this, I don't know, probably 100-foot area between these two walls. That's actually a video on it. And so it made me think about the idea of some kind of sort of water splash pad that you don't get splashed and wet. That if you're at a convention, or if you're downtown for a restaurant, or you're down for the evening, it was pretty warm when I was over there. I took my shoes off, walked in it, I was standing in it, and I took this picture. And the idea of creating something like that was a little more grown up, that the kids would love too, that was artistic. I don't know what that would.
You know, I'm afraid people would say, you know, that's why we're paying that drainage fee, is to prevent things like that.
And with the wind blowing in Chicago like it blows here.
It's actually kind of weird. There's this 50-foot tall, you know, glass tower with this video on it, and it moves, and he smiles, and then eventually there's water. It's kind of weird.
Water comes out of the mouth. Right?
Yeah.
I was there in March, same place, and that wasn't on. There was no, it was a little bit cold.
Freeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it made
Nice
me
thing.
think about these that we do put in, and you could literally do the same thing probably in a sort of with a public art component. Looking at Amtrak, hopefully to come here in a few years, we're all waiting to see kind of what might happen and what we can do, and how that might fit into downtown, and should we look at, you know, Greyhound and bus system and possibly combining those. So we're kind of looking at that. And how does that tie into the warehouse district? And one of the things that, you know, we talked about going back to the residential. I mean, the warehouse district is a really prime area for residential. It's inexpensive to redevelop into residential because you have such an open kind of concept. So it's relatively inexpensive. And the idea of possibly a historic district. And that doesn't come with any requirements any more than, say, a plaque on your house. For example, Clemens Eckle neighborhood is a historic district. Nobody has to do anything, but what it does do is it expedites dramatically the process for getting historic tax credits, that 20% of the development cost for these buildings, which they cannot get otherwise individually, because this would qualify as a district. So this is one of those units, if you had a chance a few years ago to go see the one unit we have in the district that doubled our loss, which is still leased out. It's kind of amazing. And of course, still waiting on the TxDOT approval that, from what we understand, is supposed to be heard in Austin on July 25th. Don't know if they're going to make a decision at that time, or, but there, apparently the recommendations are going to be presented on the projects. So we are still in the running on that. And if you remember, this was to go along Buchanan and 6th and basically fill in the holes in terms of the streetscape. And working on a parking study, as you know, how to best utilize public parking. And that's going to be the focus: structured parking, on-street parking. Again, talking about public parking, not private. And downtown parking is different because it's shared by different users at different times, which is very different than the suburbs, where each entity has its own parking lot. And you have a need to allow for adjacent developments of density, which you can't achieve when you have a lot of surface parking. So I won't go into this too much, but bottom line is the parking is subservient to the uses downtown. So we don't come downtown because I want to park. We come downtown because we want to do something, and parking is something we just need as part of that. So you need turnover. You have to look at rates. But basically, how do you manage the parking you have so that you have the best possible, most efficient utilization? And I'll just say that meters have come a long, long way. Whereas you used to have just pay stations where you could use the technology, where it would collect the data, where you could use your credit card. All of that is available on individual meters. Which, if you've ever used a pay station, and I mean, I have a college education, and I stood at those things when I was so, meters, and I have one in my office actually next to the brand. I walked off without it, but I mean, it
You
is
promised
like,
me I could see the meter.
I'm sorry.
It's a working meter, is it not?
Yes, it is. And Jared's going to get the old one of it from 1942. But anyway, you literally just stick a credit card in and you punch the button, the green button to go 15, 20, 15, 30, 45 minutes, an hour, and you say okay, and it runs your card. It's literally that simple. It's solar. There's no wiring to the meters. It's wireless, so it transmits the data via a box on a pole. Yeah, that's the old one.
That's the old
That
one.
is not the new one.
Saved a lot of money with that purchase.
Nickel, 2 hours for a nickel.
A nickel.
2 nickels.
So just all I want to emphasize is this is really about making sure we have the best use of the parking we have, not just how much can we bring in. A couple of final points.
Well, plus, you have businesses that are desirous of this, contrary to
Yes.
what
They need to
some
turn.
people on the street may say. They want it to turn over. They don't want somebody that's working in an office building parked in front of their business
Exactly.
all day long.
Well, we also know that some of the people parked on the streets have a place in the parking lot, they just don't find it convenient.
Yeah.
Right, and when you can park there all day, why not? So, yeah, it's about, and employees, we know that employees will walk 2, 3, 4 blocks to get to their job, whereas you don't necessarily want somebody who's going to a restaurant to have to walk that. So you want to make sure those spaces turn over. And most of all, you want to know that you have the ability to get a spot when you come down. That it's not just a foregone conclusion that those are always taken. They don't turn over.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I just want to mention the annual report that I think all of y'all got. We did the first one. Les told me it's not annual until it's the second one. But our first report that we did last year, April Johansson worked closely with myself to put that together, and we received an ADDIE award. And I was trying to remember the name of the association, American Advertising Association or something. It's the Association for Advertising for our annual report, so that was kind of cool. And then lastly, for those of you who use your mobile phones to look up stuff, our whole website is now mobile friendly. And so this is actually a picture of my phone showing how you can scroll through, you can map, if you want to go to a restaurant or to the Globe News Center, you can map it and call it directly from your phone and see it. So our whole website is now mobile friendly. We have all of the restaurants and destinations, hotels, singular, on our website. So a lot going on.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good update.
Yeah.
Just a little side note, John, the title is president, it's not chairman, but president of the BAI. Chairman. I coached
Jerry's the president.
back in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grades, Kids Eat.
Wow.
That's why he's the man that he is today.
He regularly takes credit for any and everything I've ever done.
That and a lot of therapy.
No doubt. No doubt.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Very good.
Good job.
So is that available for us to show people if we use some of those? Is it on your website?
Here you go.
Oh, good.
We got some on the USB.
What is this?
It's a bracelet. Wow.
Bracelet.
Bracelet.
Don't shock yourself.
I can
Yeah,
certainly,
I got
I can certainly put it up on our website.
It goes around your ankle, doesn't it, Mayor?
Yeah, I've got one of those too. They're already monitoring me.
Okay, move along.
Thank you very much.
NSA or
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
IRS or-
See, John.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Speaking of websites, see, John,
Thank you.
the website for building safety that you recommend, that is a very, very good presentation. If anybody on the roof,
They can get a quick education.
it sure can, it's A to Z. Oh, well done. I could go on.
Think of what it
Mayor,
was.
if we, if we could, let's go ahead and get started on a closed session. And see if we can work our way through that. Maybe not have to bring everybody back.